I don't show any preference at all. Dave, why don't we start with your testifier in Waimea, please?
Good morning, Chair. Our testifier today is Margaret Willie, here to speak in support of Resolution 303-12.
Good morning, Council Chair Hoffman and other members of the Council. I want to speak on concerning the Public Land Development Corp. And my first point is, I think that the legislators that sponsored and worked on this bill were very well intentioned. They see the counties and the state as pretty close to bankrupt in terms of having available funds. And they're trying to look around and come out with something that's a reasonable way to bring in funds to help the state and help us in counties and communities and various needs. And one of the ways they are planning to do this and facilitate it, though, is not just streamline, but basically, in my mind, undermine certain important processes, including necessary or helpful environmental and cultural reviews. So I do have a great deal of concern about how it is drafted, and also in terms of how the proposed rules have been being drafted. The second point is, I think most of the land that would be involved here is public trust land. And I think that the legislation somewhat loses sight of what that means. Public trust, the state is the trustee of this land for the benefit of Native Hawaiians and the general public. It's basically public interest land. The idea of having partnerships with corporations and handing out money to the state is, in my view, not consistent with being a trustee relationship to the beneficiaries, the public and the Native Hawaiians. All of that trustee status under the Constitution, Article 12, Section 4, 3 sections of the Constitution are very clear. Recent court decisions just this past month, Water Maui case reinforces this whole public trust idea. I believe that either we all have a choice. We can either redeem this law through rules that basically make it work, or repeal it, or the court's going to find it unconstitutional. So that pretty much sums it up, and I can give a lot more details, but I think there's a basic, the legislation and the rules do not conform to the whole constitutional principles of use of these public lands, and most of the land they're talking about has to do with this Section 5B under the Federal Admissions Act land. I can submit more detail in writing if it was requested. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Willie. Barbara, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Her testifier is Leslie Wingate, and she is speaking in support of Resolution 303. Aloha. I'm just going to read what I saw that Brenda Ford wrote. I'm supporting the Resolution 303-12, introduced by Brenda Ford. The Public Land Development Corporation needs to be abolished. It scares me. It's deeply flawed in its conception and execution of its actions, and is likely to meet many legal challenges. Geothermal development in populated areas is toxic and dangerous in many ways. I've been experiencing this firsthand for the past 8 months since I lived here. My daughter and I have been sick at least once a month, and I believe that there's gases traveling through the lava tubes underground and coming up where I live, a few miles away. Geothermal development has the potential to create earthquakes in an already unstable area. There are leaks of toxic gases, contamination of groundwater in our oceans, the creation and storage of toxic waste, and the potential for accidents that require massive evacuation. And I'm really disturbed that the mayor vetoed our chance to get an evacuation plan. And I would like to know what we, the people, can do about that, because obviously we need some kind of a plan. These things must be studied in detail. An EIS must be required in every project related to developing geothermal power. Public input must be required and seriously considered before approving projects. Again, the Public Land Development Corporation needs to be abolished. It's deeply flawed in its conception and execution of its actions and is likely to meet many legal challenges. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you very much. In Hilo, your first testifier, please.
We have Joanna on.
Good morning to the council once again, or the committee in this case. Really quick, I don't believe any of you were there at the Hilo hearing that they held over at Guayaquil High School, but after sitting in it for pretty much the entire session, I was near the end with my testimony, and I conducted a brief experiment in democracy, and I actually called for a hand vote of the people present as to whether they were either in favor or against, well, Act 55 and the Public Land Development Corporation in general. And what I found was that it was a unanimously against. The crowd was unanimously against. And, what I'd like to call attention to is the fact that the people that were there who were conducting the hearing, I had to actually have them turn around and look. I had to specifically say, gentlemen, please take a look at this. And from what my understanding of what public reaction has been to this whole idea of the Public Land Development Corporation is that it's been overwhelmingly, if not unanimously, opposed from here to Kauai. And essentially that is what I wanted to present to the committee, is that it seems that the people almost unanimously have spoken. So I would like to commend Councilmember Ford for introducing this, and thank you for your time. Thank you.
Our first testifier here in Kona, Patricia Missler, will be speaking on two items. The Resolution 303 and bill for communication regarding the PUD, Bill 291. Go ahead, Matt. You have 3 minutes on each issue.
Good morning. On Resolution 30312, I also agree and urge that the PLDC be abolished. It's a travesty to have Department of Land and Natural Resources, a body of people whose sole purpose should be to protect our natural resources for generations to come, and to be in bed with the notion that it's okay to make deals with private companies is just absolutely wrong. And I am 100% in favor of having it repealed. Thank you, Mrs. Ford, for bringing forward this resolution.
Go ahead, ma'am, your second item.
My second item is I support Bill 291. My husband and I recently completed a costly and lengthy 10-month appeal with the Board of Appeals contesting a PUD approval by Planning Director B.J. Leahead Todd. As our appeal progressed, we were shocked, disillusioned, and saddened by what appeared to be business as usual at the Planning Department, an obvious lack of professionalism combined with a reluctance to follow the Kona CDP ordinance. The power to approve a PUD should be removed from the Planning Director and reassigned to a governing body with checks and balances and transparency. The public's interests and concerns are a must in determining these decisions that affect our communities. In our appeal, an adjoining property owner, Robert Chang, submitted a letter to the planning director regarding Hawaiian burial sites. His concerns were ignored. Larry Nakayama, county planner, when asked during our appeal if he had undergone any kind of special training or educational programs to qualify to be a planner, he said no. Thorough understanding of the specific language regarding plan unit developments is essential. Whoever is responsible for making these important decisions needs a thorough knowledge of plan unit developments and the law. The application fee could be raised from $500 to $5,000. This will weed out the person seeking variances to enhance the sellability of their property. In our contested case, the owner, after having been granted a PUD approval, testified, quote, "We're just trying to get some partners to actually do any kind of developing. You know, we never really intended to do this ourselves," end quote. In other words, the applicant's PUD was only on paper, not really something he was prepared to execute. In our contested case, if the applicant had submitted an inventory of all the natural resources as required by law, it would have revealed a kipuka with 1,000-year-old ohia trees. The planning department would have had more information in which to make an informed decision. However, this was not done. To compound the errors, architect Michael Green designed this PUD without ever having made a site visit. The end result was an approval letter from the planning director with a description of the property to be developed as, quote, "Vegetation within the property area consists of a combination of ke'ave koa'haole and a variety of grass, shrubs, and weeds. The plants found on the property are generally alien and introduced species, none being considered rare or endangered. No endemic species of animals were located, nor were there habitats," end quote. Thus, an ancient old-growth ohia forest and native habitat was reduced to being a ke'ave wasteland. Furthermore, the letter implied that someone actually went to look at the property, which never happened. Site visits must be made mandatory.
Please summarize.
As a Hawaii resident, I care what happens to our natural resources. Therefore, Bill 291 will go a long way in correcting the problems we have been facing with the PUD application processing. Mahalo.
Thank you, ma'am. Barbara, your next testifier, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next testifier is Paul Kuykendall, and he's speaking in support of Resolution 303.
Aloha. I'm here to support Resolution 303, introduced by Brenda Ford, and I'd like to thank her for again being a voice of the people. It's very clear that there is widespread support for abolishing the PLDC, mainly because it's a conflict of interest between the state's responsibility for caring for state lands and wanting to develop them, bypassing important environmental safeguards. It's important to see who's supporting this. The PLDC are companies that are looking for exploitation and bypassing the environmental safeguards. So it's not only important to abolish the PLDC, but it's also important to keep the faith of the people in the government's ability, first, to listen to the people, but second, to keep the government honest. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, sir. In Hilo, your next testifier, please.
We have Dr. Roy Lozano, who is speaking in support of Resolution 303. And we have 5 more testifiers after that.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank you for moving along Bill 292, Fred, especially thank you very much. And Brenda, every time I hear you speak, Ms. Ford, I'm impressed with your caring for the Aina and the Wahana. Thank you very much. The problem with the Public Land Development Corporation, it seems like it's an illegal land grab, and I don't support that. And you heard our other voices that shared that information. The other piece that I've noticed is it seems like it's open to a lot of corruption. Just yesterday, in the front page of the Herald Tribune, this article on the beekeeper
feels that he's now being put in the position of the bad guy in relationship to this corporation. But at the end of the article, another beekeeper was saying, well, if this gentleman can get his 500 acres, why can't I get my 500 acres? And I'm a beekeeper also. Why can't I get my 500 acres in Louisville? And so pretty soon it's like, well, how am I going to get my 500 acres? Well, gee, maybe I can offer one of the board members' son a job in my business or something like that. So there doesn't seem to be any oversight on how these leases are going to be given to people, one, and it doesn't seem like the board members have been vetted properly. If I was going to have a board like this, I would say there should be environmentalists, biology, sciences, people who actually care about the line. I would have Hawaiians on there. I certainly wouldn't have a bunch of businessmen put on the board by other businessmen to help other businessmen. So that's all I can say. I support this bill wholeheartedly, and I hope it passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Here in Kona, Mike Matsukawa, speaking on Bill 291.
Thank you, members of the council. I support Bill 291 for the main reason stated in my written testimony that the policy decisions related to a PUD really belong with the county council. They belong with the county council because of the serious policy considerations. A PUD is really an exception to the zoning code and therefore should be reviewed in that context. I'll just add as anecdotal evidence that in the last 10 months, there have been 3 PUDs issued in West Hawaii. All 3 were challenged, all 3 were approved. All 3 approvals are now on appeal. Whether you agree or not with the merits, the procedural problems reflect something is wrong. And I think 291 will resolve that. Like Ms. Missler, I would add, it would be nice if you could make it a requirement for a site visit or evidence of what a site visit would reveal as being necessary to the application, and that some definition of what acceptance means, because acceptance of the application triggers the time schedule described. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Barbara, back to you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our next testifier is Suzanne Wakeland, and she is speaking in support of Resolution 303.
Hello again. I want to thank Ms. Ford for bringing this resolution to abolish the PLDC. Unfortunately, I've been seeing again and again that the state seems to have many opportunities to take advantage of the resources and the land and the people. And in this case, DLNR has shown up as being in the same vein. And I really appreciate that the county will do what they can to actually pay attention to making sure that the resources, the land, and the people do not get taken advantage of in the way that the PLDC is written. So I hope that you will move to pass this bill, and thank you for considering it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead, Hilo.
Okay, our next speaker is Donald Wessel, who will be speaking on Resolution 303.
Aloha, everybody. The PLDC is clearly designed to expedite the economic interests of private corporations. It is a disgusting and thinly disguised pillage of the Hawaiian heritage and the corruption of the rule of law to benefit a few big businesses. The 1.8 million acre land trust under the authority of the state of Hawaii through the DLNR should not be run for the benefit of developers. The PLDC is a perversion of Republican government that usurps the authority of this county council and the councils throughout the state of Hawaii. The PLDC assumes some of this council's authority in favor of state revenues and private developers. And it is my intention to root out this bankrupt political philosophy that venerates the corporate form, the so-called free market and greed. It is the idea that somehow people can make lots of money and are just and rightful leaders who will benefit us all. The PLDC institutionalized the notion that short-term greed is for a few will somehow magically provide the long-term needs of the many. Greed is not good. Greed is not good for we the people. Greed is not good for the I know. Greed is a grievously immoral way to run a society any way you cut it. The PDLC represents what is at the core of what is wrong in America's body politic. The PLDC is a short-sighted policy and illegitimate government. I, for one, expect to fight this and the political dogma that it is built on. And see to it that our elected representatives who espouse such beliefs no longer hold office and their policies are relegated permanently to the waste bin of legislative history. Corporations are not people, and they are not our partners in public governance. The Public Land Development Corporation is legalized theft. It is theft of land, it is theft of local authority, it is a theft of your corporate authority as the Hawaii County Council. Send a message to the state that you, the elected representatives of the County of Hawaii, will not sit still while the state of Hawaii hands over your authority, given you to work for me and everyone else on this beautiful island. To the authority of the state government and large private institutions. Repeal the PLDC and corporate personhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Here in Kona, Ms. Peggy Ratliff, speaking on Bill 291.
Good job.
Thank you for our service, your service to our
Please
county.
speak into that microphone,
Sorry.
Peggy. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Thank you for your service to our county. I support Bill 291 and agree with Patricia Missler and Mike Mazzacal's testimony. I do not believe that the planning director, who is appointed by the mayor, should have any authority in the matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara, your next testifier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our next testifier is Barbara Conlanger, and she is speaking in support of Resolution 303.
It's good to see all of you, and thank you, every member of the council. Particular thank you again for Councilwoman Ford. It's easy to kind of want to doze off here in my lovely little place in HPP, and then every once in a while when I look at the newspaper and I see, oh no, what's going on? What the heck is really going on? This, I believe that this particular Land Development Corporation idea was originally thoughtful. But I really believe, upon looking at it further, that it just has a great detrimental effect on the island, on what we can do as property owners, as what we can do as citizens. And so I completely support, I believe it was the testifier in Hilo. I appreciate that, and I want to urge support for this, for the passage of this particular bill, and I hope in particular that Mr. Bloss, who represents me, will represent the rest of us and vote in favor of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Next testifier in Hilo, please.
Our next testifier is Bob Ernest, and he'll be speaking on Resolution 303.
Aloha County Council, mahalo for voting for 292. That was definitely a vote for the people. I unequivocally support Resolution 303-12 to rescind the PLDC. I urge you to vote for 30312 to rescind the PLDC. I thank Brenda Ford for having the insight to sponsor 30312. Mahalo nui loa, Brenda. This is without a doubt the worst legislation I have ever seen in my life, and that's some 50 years of involvement in government. Our entire state legislative delegation voted for this public land destruction corporation, except our own Faye Hano Hano, Mahalo nui loa, Faye. Our 3 senators, Malama Solomon, and she says we need it to build restrooms and parks. Come on, Malama. Gilbert Cahaley and Josh Green all voted for this legislation. Our representatives, Mark Nakashima, Jerry Chan, Cliff Chuji, Bob Herkes, Danny Coffin, Cindy Evans, all voted for this legislation. Every one of these legislatures are Democrats. I thought the Democrats were the Malama Ina party. But today in the paper, more reason to vote for this is the governor. He is still in support of this, even though he's given so much input that this should be rescinded. You saw the Bees article in the Herald Tribune. Let me tell you, as it stated in there, the Bees do not need, nor do the Bees want, the PLDC. At the recent PLDC hearing, over 100 people spoke unanimously in opposition to the PLDC. You all should have been there to hear your constituents. Rescinding the PLDC will save tax dollars, less bureaucracy, less paper. Look at what they gave us at the hearing. All this paper to present their rules of operation. Geothermal does not need PLDC. Geothermal done correctly does not need PLDC. If geothermal meets the geothermal goals and positions I provided you earlier today, PLDC is not needed. Geothermal does not need the Public Lands Destruction Corporation. Rescind the PLC Destruction Corporation. Please vote for 30312. Speak for us. Our Hawaii Island State Legislative Delegation did not, except for Faye Hano Hano. Mahalo.
Thank you, sir. Here in Kona, Mr. Peter Van Dyke, speaking on Bill 255.
Thank you, County Council members, and especially Councilwoman Ford for for drafting Bill 255 and moving it forward. This bill will allow Amy Greenwell Garden and Bishop Museum, and I work for them to bring a farmers market back to our property in Kealakekua. The farmers market will be a great benefit to the community, to the farmers, to everybody who comes to the area looking for local homegrown produce. And it also will be a benefit to Bishop Museum and Amy Greenwell Garden for bringing the community to our place. The zoning ordinance, the Bill 255 suggests changing the zoning ordinance simply to eliminate the restriction that we can only use that property for a visitor center and related uses. The Planning Commission reviewed Bill 255, and they sent some recommendations back that, in addition, that would change that so that we would, if we do any use other than a visitor center and accessory uses, we would be required to make considerable drainage and paving and sidewalks on the roadway, the county road that runs alongside our property that we use for access. It's a short road, but it's used by the neighbors, by the church at the top of the road, by the users of the county standpipe, and also by the people who use Yano Hall and the park there. We're certainly not the only people who use that road, and it seems a bit onerous that we would be required to make these multi-million-dollar improvements if we go outside these bounds of visitor center. We don't have any plans to do anything but a visitor center, but it seems that shifting all the burden of improvements to us is a bit unreasonable. They also required they also asked that if any activities that we do at the garden generate peak traffic use of over 50 cars per hour, that we be required to do a traffic study. And I certainly understand that, I'm afraid that might be open to misinterpretation, that there are some uses that we're already doing, and this was brought up at the Planning Commission meeting, that generate like a festival, one time a year thing. And so I certainly can live with the recommendations of the Planning Commission, but if there is a choice in the matter, I would like the bill to be passed as it was originally drafted, without the additional recommendations from the Planning Commission. But that said, like I said, I do understand the Planning Commission's, where they're coming from, and we could live with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Barbara, over in Pahoa, go ahead with your next testifier, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our next testifier is Dylan Johnson, and he's speaking in support of Resolution 303.
I support Resolution 303-12 to take steps to abolishing the PLDC. The PLDC is quite simply an abomination, a demon child of out-of-control bureaucracy and private development interests. It is in itself one of the most blatant displays of government abuse of power I have ever seen. It was quickly rushed through the legislative process under the public radar. It is against the will of the people. There has been overwhelming, unanimous testimony against it, which they have largely been ignoring. The PLDC will form public-private partnerships to develop public lands to profit the government and private corporations. It will exempt developers from zoning, planning, and construction laws, as well as exempt them from taxes. What is the point of even having laws if the government is just going to exempt all their buddies in big development from them? And if the project doesn't work out, no worries. The government is just going to give them a nice bailout of taxpayer money. This just represents the latest incarnation of the exploitation of the land and people of Hawaii by the Democratic Party machine on Oahu. Please support this revolution. I thank all of you here today who have taken action to stop this insane law.
Thank you. Next testifier in Hilo.
We have Wani Keala Akaka, representing Aloha Aina Education Center, speaking on Resolution 303.
Aloha Kealoha. Aloha Kealoha. My name is Moani Keala Akaka, and I also would like to thank Councilperson Ford for being conscientious enough to offer this resolution. It seems as though she's the only county council person that was concerned enough to turn up at these PLDC hearings that were in Hilo as well as Kona. The Honolulu, according to the Honolulu Advertiser editorial 7/31/12, this agency includes appointees with political connections, cronyism, and backroom dealings are genuine threats in a state where land and power go hand in hand. Those of us who love and care for this Aina should be alarmed that this PLDC agency would be exempt from all statutes, ordinances, charter provisions, and rules of any government agency. The first hearing statewide for administrative rules for the PLDC was held in Hilo last month, attended by over 100 citizens. Everyone who testified voiced concern and sometimes outrage at this underhanded attempt to usurp democracy and the threatened theft and proposed haphazard development of our Hawaiian ceded lands. It should be understood that the $200 million land settlement that Governor Abercrombie made with OHA last spring does not resolve this state's obligation to the Native Hawaiian community. That $200 million was owed from 1980 to the present. There is still a debt owed by the state to the Kanaka Maoli for the theft of our Hawaiian nation from 1893 to 1980. So although these are called public lands by some, they are thus because we, the native Hawaiians, are willing to share. However, there is still that obligation owed to the Kanaka Maoli from the time of the overthrow of our queen and kingdom nation until OHA came into existence in 1980. In this rush to develop our ceded seized land by the Abercrombie administration, there is not even an inventory of these lands left us by our ancestors. As a former trustee for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, I helped to negotiate the original OHA settlement with the Waihe'e administration and the state. Since that date in 1990 to the present, there has still not been a complete inventory of these lands. Yet this administration is rushing forward to develop this aina. Hundreds of people, including union members, turned out at the PLDC hearings throughout this state, where most of the testimony was not on the administrative rules, but instead critics attacked the PLDC mission, calling for the law that created the corporation to be repealed. Senators Malama Solomon and Donovan Dela Cruz, who
Please
rammed this
summarize,
PLDC through the legislature and the PLDC board, warn of fake rumors and misinformation about this entity. But it is they who are trying to fool the public. Calvert Young, the head of the PLDC,
Please
states
summarize,
that they will
ma'am.
review this testimony. This is really important, and I'd like to finish it. Review this testimony. Now, this is Calvert Young, the head of the PLDC. Says they will review the public testimony given throughout the state. However, there is no evidence of the meeting even being recorded in Hilo. And when we asked, we were supposed to believe PLDC Executive Director Lloyd Haraguchi when he said that the recorder was in his pocket. We are entitled to the transcript that was in his pocket so that we can also be on the same page. It was good to see the Office of Hawaiian Affairs being advocates. They were elected to be on this issue affecting our people's present and future. You can see that there are not many speakers that are speaking to this. The momentum and concerns raised by these public hearings on PLDC statewide show that democracy was at work. I only have another sentence to go, or two. A year ago in Hilo, at a Department of Land and Natural Resources meeting attended by Chairman Bill Ila, Senators Dela Cruz and Solomon, I raised concerns about PLDC and its ramifications for our ceded land. Senator Dela Cruz told me I needed to have vision and foresight. While this whole process of the PLDC seems to have had a lack of vision and foresight, as the people have spoken. Repeal Act 55. Google Public Land Development Corporation for news report of that Hilo August 20th, 2012 meeting relating to the PLDC hearing. Mahalo.
Hello. Thank you. We'll end our recess. Ladies and gentlemen, we understand the contentious and somewhat emotional issues here. We've been faced with these things for a considerable period of time. However, our rules clearly say to everyone 3 minutes, and I would plead with the testifiers to please show that courtesy and deference to every member of the public who comes forward. 3 minutes. Thank you. Our next testifier here in Kona is Paul Komura.
Good morning. I'm a little upset with what I see here occurring. So I'll try to calm down as I present my facts as I understand them. I support 303-12. Brenda was the only one who was there and gave testimony at the PLDC meeting at Kona Waina High School. I was there myself. I nullified their rules by tearing them up. So here I go. I, as one of your constituents, attending a meeting and or hearing of the Public Land Development Corporation at Conewaina High School on the 21st of September. To my knowledge, there were no minutes taken. This corporation, from what I understand, is a state development corporation passed into law by Act 55 in 2011. Attached to the Hawaii Department Land and Natural Resources Department. Are they going to do now that somebody else is taking over their job? Its purpose is to develop public lands placed under the PLDC jurisdiction, including but not limited to existing open shoreline areas, conservation lands, agricultural lands, small boat harbors, for the purpose to generate revenue for the state. What comes to this island? The PLDC is the vehicle and sets the process to make optimal economic, environmental, and social use of public lands, including public recreation, visitor holiday destinations, through an appropriate and culturally sensitive public land development program. The PLDC will identify public lands to be developed and maintained, conducting marketing analysis for generating best revenue, will enter into public-private development agreements, and will direct the development and financing of the selected public lands to be developed. My major concern is that this Act 55 gives the PLDC too much power through the DLNR. The PLDC can use state statutes that supersede Hawaii County ordinances to change or comply with the corporation's purposes. It appears that the Hawaii Clean Energy Programmatic Environmental Impact Statement, BEIS, suggests that the state of Hawaii use obsolete technology to create energy resources and connect it with a smart grid, connecting all islands with a submarine power cable, The cable system is estimated to cost $16 billion. With this system, any and all islands could lose their power with a flick of a switch or a terrorist act. It is clear to me that the Hawaii County has the ability to create the majority of the Hawaii Islands energy with the obsolete technology suggested in the PEIS statement. With HELCO delivering this energy from our island, will the county residents receive a reduced rate for energy consumption? I think not.
Please summarize, sir.
I will. Thank you, Pete. I have heard it said that contempt prior to investigation leaves a man in everlasting ignorance. So I have attempted to find the maps of County of Hawaii that should show the Hawaii Kingdom properties. They were not available to me. Are they hidden? Are they lost? I attempted to gain a certain topographical map of the Ka'u district from the U.S. government. It is not available. I attended the September 10, 2012 meeting of the Hawaii County Public Access Open Space and Natural Resources Preservation Commission. I heard there that the commissioners are prioritizing the purchases of open space land for the county. I am confused and will do further investigation. I will finish with this. What needs to be hidden from the people of Hawaii? What needs to be hidden? What behind closed doors planning is going on? I will not remain in the dark. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Barbara, your next testifier, please.
Mr. Chair, next testifier is Toby Hazel, and she's commenting in support of Resolution 303.
You see, it's all going to balance out. You guys worry too much. All I'm going to say is rescind it and send the PLDC back to Honolulu and tell them to stay there. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. That's certainly one of the more succinct opportunities we've heard. Thank you. Hilo, your next testifier, please.
We have Thomas Lee, and he'll be speaking in support of Resolution 303-12.
I'm Thomas Travis. I will be speaking in support of 303 briefly. PLDC provides great flexibility to those who want to develop on public lands. It does so by taking the community out of the equation, by taking powers of the county council away from them. It particularly dismisses what the county council can do on the boundaries of public lands, because with the way the rules are set up, a geothermal development close to public lands would no longer have the county council have any rule over that. In short, Act 55 coupled with Act 97 do something that I would humbly disagree with the governor. It does not streamline, it bulldozes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next testifier here in Kona, Trish Shanna Knudsen. Please correct my pronunciation.
Morning. I just want to support all the others. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you very much. How are you feeling, by the way, for all this? Good? Okay. Just here as a very concerned community member in regards to the Public Land Development Corporation, it needs to be abolished. I'm in 100% support of resolution 303-12. And I also attended the meeting, had also attended the meeting in Conewaina, as did many of us. Sometimes it feels as though being in the outer islands, you kind of, we don't hear things quite as quickly, and it just appears to me, I didn't read all of it, it's a book, certainly, but what really concerns me is the non-transparency of the thing, where we won't see the public hearings perhaps that we should, and how this all came about rather quickly, and this is a very, very important issue for the state, for the island in particular. So thank you very much.
Before you leave, Trish, would you please state your name again clearly into the microphone?
Patricia Shaner, S-H-A-N-E-R, last name K-N-U-D-S-E-N. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Barbara, next testifier, please. Is Barbara there? Is there a testifier there?
I'm sorry. Chairman Hoffman, I am here. Our next testifier is Barbara Cuttons, and she will be speaking in support of Resolution 303.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Hello again. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my husband, Trace Perot. And I want to thank Brenda for bringing this resolution 303-12. And I want to thank the planning committee, for hearing us today. I wholeheartedly support this resolution, 303-12. I understand the need to develop ways for our state to be more financially viable. However, the current legislation will cause litigation and civil unrest, I believe. Put people in a corner, and they're going to come out fighting to save their land. They really are, and I believe that this legislation is really putting people in a corner, and it's very sad to see this happening. With current legislation, people could be forced off their land and put through undue financial hardship. It's really, I find this whole legislation to be a threat to the environment, a grave threat to the environment, and we don't have a huge state here, but what we have is very precious. We need to look after it. I find this legislation that enables the PLDC access to state land to be totally unbelievable. I'm shocked by it. I'm totally shocked by it. I still really can't believe that it could have even been passed at state level. To me, it seems like a total abuse of power, and I really wonder what's going on behind it. It makes me wonder whether there is some sort of corruption going on, but it doesn't meet my needs for care of our land and for looking at our future of civil rest. I really believe that this legislation is causing people to feel really trapped and to be really questioning the legislators that we have legislating for us at a state level, that they could have passed something like this. My call is to abolish the PLDC, and it's the only right thing to do. Repeal Act 55.
Thank you very much. Testifier and Hilo, please.
We have Robert Patrici in support of Resolution 303-12.
Good morning. I'd like to speak to the COM as well as to the resolution this morning. I want to say I do support Resolution 303 to repeal Act 55, and that I hope that the county sees the wisdom in this and try to maintain their home rule. Because as it is right now, we don't seem to have all that much home rule, and this is just a huge move away from that to strip us of more home rule. Further than that, these are trust lands. These lands are given to the state in trust, and this doesn't appear to be in the best interest of the trustees. What I see is going to happen if you develop these lands, we're now going to have to pay to access these lands because they're going to have to recoup their costs. So somehow we're going to pay for that, for lands that we can now generally use for free. So that doesn't seem as in the best interest of the trust on these lands. So let's see, I don't remember seeing so much public opposition to legislation in recent times myself, and I was at the Hilo hearing, and I would like to see a record of that too. It was supposed to be a public hearing, so where are the transcripts? There was all the people testified against it, and I hear that was in Kona too. And so how do you hold a public hearing like this? I mean, that just gives you an example of what's going on with the PLDC and how they're holding. There's no transparency, there's no accountability. It's a real problem, and it should raise red flags for the county, because this is going to affect you guys. It's going to affect all of us and what's happening here. You have Honolulu. Now, Honolulu has created a model that's not sustainable. So you see that in they're coming here for our resources. They're coming here for all of these different things. They've created this monster in Honolulu that can't take care of itself, and now they're coming to us to take care of them. And they're going to try to, do we want to be like Honolulu? I don't think we do. I think that's a poor model. We have a very good model here of sustainability already, that we can look at in our communities. And Honolulu should learn from us. And what they seem to be doing is trying to dictate to us and tell us how to develop this island. But the truth is they didn't do a very good job over there, and they're still not doing a very good job over there. And I think we should be aware of that, and that we need to we need to take care of ourselves. We shouldn't look to Honolulu because they haven't done well, and we don't want to end up like them. The response from the governor and some of the senators over there to call us misinformed and basically ignorant, that we don't understand the intent of the act. I think that's insulting. I think we understand what's going on very well, and I think that's the problem that they have with that, is that we do see what's going on, and we did speak to it very, competently, and they are stripping away a lot of the zoning, the building requirements, and those are all environmental protections that take years to put in place. We've worked hard, many groups have worked hard for years and years to put in place this structure to protect our lands, and here we come with the stroke of a pen.
Please summarize, Mr. Petrucci.
Okay, in the stroke of a pen, in 3 days, 20, 30 years of hard work by community organizations and groups has been wiped out. That is wrong. Repeal Act 55.
Thank you, sir. Here in Kona, William Curtis Radke. I'm not sure exactly subject matter you have is Amy Greenwell Festivals, but you've indicated Resolution 303-12. So please indicate which one you have in mind.
Bill
Okay, speak into the microphone closely.
Bill 255, and I would reiterate exactly what Mr. Van Dyke testified to, that all of this could have been done, and when it was all put together, everything was laid out, the planning commission was aware of it, and it really never impacted any of the events except for a couple of outside events other than the farmers market or building and drainage. And I'd just like to see a yes vote on Barbara's resolution to move this thing along so we can all move back to what we consider home, in agreement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Barbara, how many more testifiers do you have?
Mr. Chair, this is our final testifier.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Our final testifier is James Hedgecock, and he is speaking on behalf of him and his wife who had to leave, and he's speaking in support of Resolution 303.
I'd like to thank Ms. Ford for introducing this resolution, and I want to add my support to all the previous testimony I've heard, all the reasons I've heard for this ill-conceived Act 55. I'm also amazed that it ever got passed. It's the best example I've ever seen of what people have jokingly told me that are the third world government conditions here in Hawaii. I don't believe that's true, but this is sure a good example of that way of thinking. This PLDC corporation has to be abolished. It's ridiculous. It's the worst designed thing I've ever heard of. And that's all I have to say about it.
Thank you very much. In Hilo, how many more testifiers?
We just have one more, but she's not here. It's Carrie Marks. I'm not sure.
When Ms. Marks comes back, let me know. We have about 8 more here in Kona.
Okay.
So
Thank
we'll
you.
start working on our list.
Thank you.
Our next testifier, Subhadra Kaur, speaking on Resolution 303.
Aloha Council members. Thank you, Brenda Ford, for 303-12. Can you hear me now? Again, aloha Council members. Good to see you all today. Again, thank you, Brenda Ford, for going to the meeting and drawing this up. I think that you all would have been there if you'd have had time. I don't look at it as disinterest that everyone can't make every meeting. So long as you vote right, I'm all happy with it. I also have a hard time seeing how this ever came across the 171C, just to say, well, we're not going to set aside our environmental laws. We're going to set aside our zoning laws. We're going to set aside all our protections to the ocean and the land, everything that